It takes about an average of 14 months to clear the body and to become healthy and well. But 14 months as opposed to the collecting of the chemicals for 5, 6, 7 decades is really not a lot of time.
Welcome to Doctor's Orders, your radio, your way. Part 2 of our special report with Kelly Calabrese, our nutritional expert. And we're talking about foods, we're talking about toxins, we're talking about chronic inflammation, and we're going to be talking about cancer in this series. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about the foods that we eat and what is in them. And we're going to talk about nutritional labels, and we're going to talk about growing. We're going to talk about everything food on this special edition of Doctor's Orders. And welcome back, Kelly. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you.
On this show, I'm going to call myself out a little bit, because you've been harping on me since I known you about some of the things I put in my diet. And doggone it, you mentioned it in the last show about some of the stuff they do to make you get addicted, and I'm totally addicted. So we're going to talk about labels and how to read labels, what's in food, some of the things that we hear and we read labels, what does it mean? Let's just start with an overview. Tell me a little bit about your philosophies and give me your opinion on, and I'll pull out my first can of Chunky. This is Chunky clam chowder with potato, and I'm just going to turn over the nutritional facts here. Tell me about this label that we all have heard so much about, this governmental nutritional fact stuff that we have.
Well, the USDA needs to make these labels. And so these are our nutritional facts, and this is something that's legal and required. And so they're trying to do the best that they can, but it's not always accurate. When you actually add up all the carbs, proteins, and fats, it actually doesn't add up to total calories. And then sometimes they'll say 0 trans fats, but anything that's less than 1%, you can still have trans fats in the product.
Now, we're going to get into this, but that's one of the many questions I had today. When we talk about trans fats, there's a chemical process they do to remove the trans fats. They're not naturally removed. Correct? I saw something, I got an email in one of my medical things that I get that talked about natural trans fats removal, or how you produce the product versus how we're getting rid of some of these trans fats.
Well, fats are fats. So you're either going to be having a natural fat that you're going to be partially hydrogenating that fat, or you're going to end up having, like Crisco. Crisco is a great product. It's completely trans fat. And you can't change Crisco. Crisco is Crisco, and you won't ever see a Crisco product that says 0 trans fats on it.
Because that's what it is.
That's what it is. What the manufacturers are trying to do is they're trying to create a healthier product for the consumer, but it's not a healthier product because it's still out of a can. Anything that's out of a can, a box, anything that is processed is not going to be completely healthy for you. And they're going to be putting fillers in here, like this product here, which is the Chunky Campbell's soup. It has canola and soybean oil. Now, these are not good oils to have. The best oils to have is your monounsaturated, which is your olive oil, is your best oil. And your best cooking oils are going to be your butter or coconut oil, because saturated fats, pure saturated fats like butter or coconut oil, which are natural, are not going to break under heat because they're saturated and they are single bond carbon chains. When you have a monounsaturated fat, you'll be using that in your salad because that will have a single double bond. And then your polyunsaturated fats are going to be your sunflower and safflower oils. You can also use those in salads as well. But you don't want to cook with unsaturated oils. You want to cook only with saturated oils.
So real quick, you mentioned cooking. What about margarine? A lot of people cook in margarine or vegetable oil or corn oil.
Well, margarine is not, it's not even real. It's partially hydrogenized. It's not even real. And it's like plastic going through your system. It's not real. The body cannot recognize it. Margarine is the worst product you could have. And they're coming out with like Smart Balance. That's a horrible product. They're coming out with all these different butters and they're not natural. They're not, the body cannot recognize fats that are not natural. The body can only recognize fats that are natural.
Wow, you're listening to Doctor's Orders, your radio, your way. We're talking with Kelly Calabrese about nutritional labels, and we're breaking down the Chunky clam chowder from Campbell's. What else do you see on that label that brings up red flags?
MSG, monosodium glutamate, and it's a preservative that will keep this shelf life of this product for years and years. But that is just really bad. People are very allergic, highly allergic to MSG, as well as food colors, as well as a lot of products out there. There's also wheat in here, and a lot of people are now becoming sensitive and allergic to wheat. So this product is not going to be good for someone that has a lot of food sensitivities.
Another thing that has been put to me over the last year since I've been eating healthy is the amount of sodium that I am putting in my body. I bet you if we look at the sodium, it's probably stone cold high.
Yeah, it's 37% of this product.
So now sodium, that's a killer.
Yeah, it's very high. I mean, it's almost 1,000 milligrams.
And isn't the daily recommended dose somewhere around 1,000 to 1,500?
Yeah, I believe it's 1,500.
That is almost a day's dose worth of sodium.
Yeah.
And let's say you eat that, and that's one serving, correct? How many servings are in that can?
The servings here are two servings, yes.
So 2 servings, you have 2,000 grams of sodium, well over your daily recommended nutritional guidelines of what you're supposed to have, and that's one meal.
That's right. And people will eat this as one meal. So they'll end up getting the 2,000 milligrams.
And then they'll have their crackers, because they got to put crackers in a cram chowder, you know?
Which, of course, has sodium in it.
And what sodium does is it's a fluid retainer. We talked about inflammation in the last show. That is a contributor to inflammation, as well as how much sodium you're putting in your diet. So right there, this is probably on your X list. Throw it out the garbage, correct?
Yeah, just donate it.
Don't eat it. Stay away from it. All right, I'm going to let you pick on me now. I'm going to hand you a box. I have my coffee, as I do in every show that we do, next to me. And one thing that I put in it is one of 2 products. I put either Splenda or brand name Aspartame, which is your NutraSweet. All right, and I'm going to hand you the box of aspartame here, my aspartame sweetener, or what you would consider to be, in a lot of cases, NutraSweet or whatever your product that you buy. Tell me how much danger I'm in.
You're in tremendous danger because this product is aspartame. And aspartame is truly a cancer-causing agent. They start with aspartame with the pink packets. So whether you choose pink, yellow, or blue packets, you're causing more damage to your cells, and you're really creating an increase in cancer.
This is chemical. There's nothing natural in this. This is a chemical.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
There's nothing in there. There's not even, you can't even justify that there's a tiny bit of sugar in there because there's nothing in there of value.
There's nothing in here of value.
And that goes in our system and again floats around and then gets deposited in our fat cells and just hangs out there because there's nowhere really for it to go.
Exactly.
You're listening to Doctor's Orders, and that's the voice of Kelly Calabrese, and she has a wonderful service that she can offer to you through her business called Optimal Wellness Solutions. And you can get a hold of Kelly by dialing 590-9879. If you're outside the Springs, 719-590-9879. You can also visit her on her website, optimalwellnessllc.com. optimalwellnessllc.com. Kelly, one of the things that I discovered about that beautiful little blue packet is the fact that it also messes with your pancreas in a really bad way. It sends wrong signals. I'm a diabetic, so I have to pay attention to that, and I found out the hard way. I stopped using aspartame for that very reason because I'm trying to get rid of my type 2 diabetes. And one of the first things that I found out is that aspartame actually messes with your pancreas and sends the wrong signals for it to send insulin to your body.
That's correct. I mean, anyone that's a type 2 diabetic, it's because they have an inundation of toxic chemical exposure, and they're going to have to address the toxic chemical exposure not just with the foods but also with the other chemicals, the heavy metals, the petrochemicals, the pesticides, the organic solvents. So diabetics will not be clear and free of their diabetes. This is type 2 diabetes. They will not be clear and free of their diabetes unless they address all the chemicals that have been inundating them for 5, 6, 7 decades.
And the sad part about that is that that's a process of time, I would say, because you can't just do it all in one day. I mean, you'd throw your body out of whack the other way, wouldn't you?
No, I work with a lot of diabetics, and it takes about an average of 14 months to clear the body and to become healthy and well. But 14 months, as opposed to the collecting of the chemicals for 5, 6, 7 decades, is really not a lot of time. And 14 months of diligent choices and behavior is really a tremendous success program.
In regards to the overview of looking at labels, and I'm not just talking diabetics now, people in general, what would you say would be the first best process for us to use in terms of turning ourselves around and getting away from things that we know for a fact are not good for us?
Choosing all foods that are pure and raw and organic, foods that are coming directly from Mother Earth.
And we'll get to that here in a second because that's a process. And we've talked about that in a break of how we start this process, but that's a process. Before we get there, I want to talk about sugars. Natural sugars, on the label it says sugar, and then we have our high fructose corn syrup, then we have our sugar alcohols. Am I missing any that we would see on our label?
And then you have your chemical sugars, made up ones.
Okay, let's talk about those when we're reading labels, because a lot of times what we'll see is a product. I saw one last night. I just picked it up. 25% less sugar. It was a chocolate chip oatmeal bar. It said 25% 25% less sugar, it had high fructose corn syrup in it and sugar alcohol. Now, that's a deception, correct? There's still sugar in that and probably less. And then the calories were higher, fat was higher than the original normal brand with all the traditional stuff in it. What I'm getting at is when we're looking at labels and it says 25% less sugar, we're thinking, that's going to be healthier. But in a lot of cases, it's not.
It's not. And actually, when you start messing with the different ingredients, you basically have, as your macronutrients, you have carbohydrates, protein, and fat. So those are your three macronutrients. So what happens is if you're going to take away sugar, which is carbohydrate, where are you going to end up having your calories? It's going to be with fat because it's not a protein source. So just like if you're going to have less fat in a product, where are you going to have your calories? It's going to come from carbohydrate because it's not going to be a protein source. So that's what happens, that people need to understand that you only have three choices: protein, carbs, and fat. And then you have to make the decision of, do you want to be eating more carbs? Do you want to be eating more fat? Do you want to be eating more protein? And when you have manufacturers developing these products that are not natural and that they are out of a box or a package, you're going to end up having synthetics, these different kind of sugars, and then you're going to have an alteration between fats and carbs. Pretty much those are the two that you're going to be having the alternation with. Usually protein is going to be coming from animal products. You do have some protein in vegetables, but not a lot.
We're wrapping up quickly here, and there's so much more I want to talk about. So let's get right to it. Real quick, we've heard, and just to clarify, we've heard a lot about sugar versus high fructose corn syrup. Tell me, when we're looking at a label, why is high fructose corn syrup so much more taboo than just regular sugar?
Well, high fructose corn syrup is made up. It's not a natural sugar. Have you ever seen corn itself? I mean, just think about a corn stalk. Pure corn is just plain corn.
When we say high fructose corn syrup, we're basically saying we had our little Bunsen burner and we're pouring in a bunch of chemicals that came from Dow Chemical, and we're creating this nice little sweetener.
Exactly.
I remember when I was a kid, I was a soda drinker. I was a Pepsi Cola drinker, and I can't stand drink sugar sodas anymore because they don't taste the same. But now Pepsi came out with their original recipe with regular sugar in it. And I just took a sip of somebody's. I'm going, now that's Pepsi. You can really taste the difference between this chemical makeup and traditional real sugar.
That's correct. When you're eating pure sugar, pure, not modified, unadulterated sugar, it's going to taste like it's supposed to taste. And that's the problem, is that because sugar is so much more money and it's more expensive, they're going to end up doing chemical sugars and save money.
And it affects the taste and our health. As we close this out, where do we start? Where do we fix this problem? When we're picking up and we're going shopping and we're telling everybody to read these labels, like this can of mandarin oranges and light syrup, which I was informed today probably isn't the greatest thing, but it's out of a label, it's not bad. Has mandarin oranges, water, sugar, and citric acid. That's probably as good as you're going to get in a can, right?
Exactly. It is as good as you're going to get in the can, but try to eat whole, raw foods.
Go and actually get organic and check your grocers locally. Make sure that it's not just the word organic, because there's a lot of ways you can get around it in advertising and packaging. Make sure that this stuff is actually natural.
Exactly.
Only thing that should be on this label is mandarin oranges, correct?
Correct.
And that should be it. So go to the store, go to your local grocery store, and find real mandarin oranges, chop them up, put them in glass containers, put them in your fridge, and eat them.
Sounds great.
Is that the best approach?
Yep.
What else can we do?
Well, you want to make sure that you stop drinking all sodas. You want to make sure that your juice you're drinking is 100% juice with no fillers, no extra sugar.
It should say grape juice, 100% grape juice. That's it.
That's it.
Simple is easy here. When you're reading labels, it shouldn't have 15 ingredients. If it says 100% natural, it shouldn't say high fructose corn syrup, added sugar, coloring, number 5. It should be 100% pure orange juice.
The best products to eat are the ones that don't have a list of ingredients on the label.
The less, the better.
Yes.
Wonderful stuff.
Well, friends, as we wrap up this edition of Doctor's Orders, some powerful information for you to think about from Kelly Calabrese. And if you'd like to get more information from her, how about you make an appointment with her? You can call her here in the Springs at 590-9879. If you're outside the Springs, 719-590-9879. Also visit her website. It's got a lot of great information on it. OptimalWellnessLLC.com. OptimalWellnessLLC.com. Kelly, it's a pleasure and a delight to have had you here for this program. Next time we get together, we're going to get a little deeper into the foods and talk about the cancer-causing agents. I know that's something that's near and dear to your heart for us to understand, so we'll look forward to having you back for show number 3.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Doctor's Orders, thanks for listening once again to yourradioyourway.com.